Boker Tov. Today's daf is Daf Gimel in Baba Kama. We barely started. We're already up to Daf Gimel, right? We learned the Mishnah the other day. Yesterday's Gemara, again, we learned for Achinokal Beis Yisrael and the Sunnah Basar of Shivya. And yesterday, the Gemara talked about the fact the Mishnah said Avos. Many times at the beginning of Gemara, they deal with the nomenclature, Arba Avos and Zikin. There's four Avos and Zikin. What are they? Shor, Bor, Mav, and Hever. Well, Shor, Bor is pretty obvious. That's we said that's a pit or we'll see any obstacle in Shus Ram, and Hever is a fire. Shor, well, there's different categories of shor as we described yesterday. There's Karen, where he gores with his horn. That is, as the Gemara will talk about that, that has the characteristic that the animal does it on purpose. He has no pleasure out of it. He just wants to do damage. There's another aspect of shor, which is regal, where he does damage incidentally as he's walking, where his intention isn't to damage, but it's a very common thing. An animal walks, there's stuff on the floor, he's going to step on it. And then there's shame, where he's eating for his pleasure, where he goes out of his way to eat something. There, the characteristic is that he has pleasure. Those are all aspects of shor. Mava, we're not sure. That's a machlokes in the Gemara. What is mava? Is mava shame, that aspect of the animal, or is it talking about a person? A person has different rules entirely. Not only does he have nezek, he has sari, b'shevis, and bosh, as we've discussed many times. So the Gemara is going to get into it, but the first Gemara is dealing with the fact that since you say avos, mashma, that there are toldos, there are derivatives, secondary items, second to the main principal item, and that's what we say. So are they like their principal ones or not? We said when it comes to Shabbos, Hilchos Shabbos, the toldos are like the avos. Punishment is pretty much the same. When it comes to avos atuma and toldos atuma, the reviewing yesterday's Gemara, they're not the same, right? An av could be matami, make something into a first degree, and a tolda, which is basically a first degree, can only make something into a second degree. So there, it's not the same. What about over here when it comes to nezikin, damages that your property does, your animal? Usually it's your animal, or maybe it could be your car, but your car is really you driving it. You're talking about animals usually do damage. So Rav Papa said there are some of it kiyosven, some not kiyosven, some when it comes to animals, some derivatives, the toldos are like, in some cases they are like the principle, in some cases they're not. So the Gemara yesterday started to search, where are they not? In almost all the cases that we look at, we started dealing with Karen, we started dealing with Regel, and we said, where is it that it's not like that it's not like where the secondary or the derivative is not like the principle? That's what we were talking about yesterday. So the top of the Gemara is Amar Mar, but let's take a look at the last four lines on Beis and Beis, just for a little bit of a preamble. So the Gemara is saying, where do we find that? What does Rav Papa mean? What's the case that Rav Papa says that the derivative is not like the principle? By Karen and Brego, it seems to be it is the same, right? What is it? So which is case? So the Gemara says maybe it's going on Shane Berego. Shane Berego. Well, it wasn't on Karen. Karen didn't work. Let's talk to Shane and Regel. Where do we know that Shane and Regel you're chayiv? How do we know that if your animal goes and eats somebody else's fruit that you have to pay for it? Or if he damages with his feet, you have to pay for it. Now, where do you chayiv to pay? We'll see later on, somebody else's property. If your animal is walking in the street and you left an apple in the street and your animal eats the apple, do you have to pay for it? No. You left it in the street. Animals are allowed to walk in the streets, Rosh Hashanah. Or if you left a glass jar and he broke the glass, animals do that in the Rosh Hashanah. Now, if he's in your property, he had no permission, then you have to pay. So the Gemara. So how do we know the concept of Shem Berego? The pasuk says, it says the pasuk in Mishpatim, V'shilach es beira o beira b'stei acher. It says V'shilach, you send your beast, Zeh Regel. How do you know that Shilach refers to Regel? The pasuk says in Yeshaya, you send the feet of the shore of the ox or the donkey. Okay. And then it's ubir b'stei, and he'll destroy, consume in somebody else's field. Zeh Hashem. How do you know consumption means he damages with his mouth, meaning with his teeth, he eats something? The pasuk says, as the galal, Rashi says in the first chapter, the galal refers to shame. Why? Because it's sometimes revealed. Galal is lashon of sometimes it's exposed, sometimes it's not. So like the tooth, consume something atumo in its entirely until there's nothing left. Rashi brings out another shot that galal is a lashon of dung, because by eating something, you consume it, then your body is ma'achel with an ayin, right? Is ma'achel the food, and it processes the food. What's the word I'm looking for? Digests the food. Right? You digest the food. Okay, good point. 2 points there. You digest the food and turns it into dung. So that's another pshat. But the idea is we're talking about tea, right? So okay, so this tells you, the pasuk says, if you send your beast to somebody else's field, and based on the words, Veshilach refers to regel either by his feet or by his mouth. Again, feet meaning he walks on something. Animals walk; they're going to trot on things. If stuff is laying there, he's going to damage it. He doesn't really necessarily mean to damage it in the case of regel, but the characteristic of regel is that it's very frequent. If there's stuff on the floor and an animal's walking there, he's going to break it. Right? The characteristic of Shane is that he wants to eat it. He gets pleasure out of eating it. Right? In both those cases, if you send your animal to somebody else's field, you have to pay. Amar, so let's understand this now. Again, recall that our search now. We're bringing all the proof. How do you know Karen? That was on yesterday's daf. How do you know Karen from Bechor Shor? How do you know Shane Regel from these psukim? But we're really searching for Rav Papa's case, where Rav Papa said some cases the derivative item is like the principle, in some cases it's not. So far by Karen, we see that it's like it. What's the toldus of Karen? We said is, let's say, an animal pushing or colliding with another animal, biting, falling on something, kicking something. Oh, the animal wants to do it. Those are the derivatives, right? But they're like the principle too. What's the main concept of a Karen the Chiyuv? Because he wants the animal intends to do damage, and you're responsible for it. It's your property. You have to pay. We'll see. One of the things of Karen is that you only pay out of the body of the animal itself. If your animal is worth $100 and he damages an animal that's worth $1,000, the max with Karen, not with Shane or Rego, where you're responsible in somebody else's field. You send your animal to somebody else's field and say, I don't care what your animal's worth, you have to pay the full damage. But if it's Karen has learned out you only pay from the goof of the animal. So whether it's Chatzi Nezik, remember a Tom pays Chatzi Nezik the first 3 times that he gores. He only pays half. That's a knas. That's what the Torah says, because he doesn't normally gore. But this is, we don't know that he's you didn't have to guard him so much because you didn't know the animal's going to go goring. My dog never hurts anybody. I'm surprised he bit you. You always you ever hear that? This dog never. I was surprised. Yeah, usually you assume the animal's not going to go hurting somebody, right? But after 2-3 times, it's time to wake up, and you were warned in court. Now he's a mu'ed. Now he's got to pay full. But even full is only from the animal. If your animal's worth $100 and he damages an animal that's worth $1,000, or damages not another animal, just anything that he damages. If it was with Karen, he gored something. He gored your animal, or he did something with Karen. You can only get a maximum of $100 because you only get what the animal's worth. That's the case of Karen. But if he steps on something, if he goes into your yard and he steps on something expensive, a vase, and breaks it, you got to pay the whole thing. Amar Mar, top of the page. V'shilach su regel. You said shilach means regel. Shilach chenom pasuk is mishachar regel asher v'chamor. Time in the kasser rachman mishachar regel shamor. Oh, because it says we have a pasuk that says shilach with regel, so it tells you okay when it says shilach it means with the foot. Halav if it wouldn't be for that pasuk in Tanakh that says mishachar regel asher v'chamor, what would you have said? My mukasa pasuk says in the Chumash. If a person sends his b'shilach his biro u'bir b'steacher, if he sends his beast and he consumes in another, what's the kind of damage you're talking about? If you're not talking about with the feet, based on that pasuk, what else could you have expected? But Karen, if you're talking about these damages with his horn, he's goring something. See, we already have a pasuk that we learned yesterday. He's Shane. We have another pasuk that Shane. We just said the other pasuk. Siv. What else could it refer to? He says Yitzchak. No. I have to tell me that the pasuk is speaking of regel. Why? It must be speaking of regel. Why do I need a pasuk teaching regel? I might think there's 2 different kinds of shame. In one case, it's where the animal consumed all the entire. He consumed the entire principle. He assumed the whole thing. In one case, he didn't finish it. In other words, he only damaged partly. So you might say Okay, that's what he do psukim for. Whether the shane, whether he damaged it entirely. It says Vashilach Obir Tavayu Hashem. Rashi says Vashilach Asluchi Behechadol Chayikarna. The Mashpon She'achla Aruga the Sofa Lachser. But he ate it partially, but it's going to go back. Aval lo kitchila won't go back entirely. Beer that he finished it entirely. So so that's what Rashi explains. So he's talking about edi Hashem maybe both being ashamed. Know that there's chiyuv for regular. In other words, maybe you're not responsible if your animal just stomps on something and breaks it, even if he's in somebody else's field. Maybe Bashilach is only if he damages with his mouth. If he eats something partially, either he consumed it partially, it'll grow back, not maybe the way it was, but it'll grow back, or or if he consumed it totally, then maybe you're not chayiv there. Kamash Malon, the pasuk of Mishalcha regular Shavachamar teaches me that when it says Bashilach, it's referring to damage done by his feet. So the Mersa Bahashdu Kim that regel. So now that it knows it's regel, Shane Lo Machai Karmenon. Maybe shane is only if he consumed everything. He ate the whole patch and it's not going to grow back. He did such damage it can't grow back. We say the guy comes in, an animal comes into your yard and he ate some of the fruit. So, you say he didn't do much. It'll grow back. Maybe you're not chayiv in a case like that. Shane lo machai karmenon says domi regel. It's got to be like regel. Ma regel lo shne machai karmenon lo shne machai. Regel means any damage. If you've done any damage with this feet, you have to pay. So same thing af shane because they're both learned out from the same pasuk. Shilach has biro bir b'stei acher. So the same thing, Afshain also, okay, that was the explanation of regel. We didn't get into the detail, we didn't get into the totals of regel. We're just trying to explain what is regel. Now let's look at Shane. Omar Mar, Ubir Zeh Shane. How do you know beer means with his feet, with his mouth, with his teeth? Like the pasuk we said at the top of the page. Because we have that pasuk. Else, what would you say? It says Vashilach has beer. Vashilach we explain means regel, and you need to tell me that it's regel because I could have thought there's two kinds of shane. Fine, I got that. Now when it says kashir because that refers to shane. If it wouldn't be for that, I need a pasuk to tell me it refers to shane. If it wouldn't be for that, what else could you explain? You already have a pasuk for karen before sure. Regel, if it's regel, we have the pasuk of a shilach. So what do I need? What else could be or mean except for shane? Why do we need a pasuk to tell me that it must mean shane? What else could it be? It's no, I still need the pasuk to explain that it means shane. I think you need regel. They're both kinds of regel. The shilach is if the master, the owner, sent the animal there. Then it's one. That's one chiyuv. Maybe if he didn't send him there, maybe you're not chayiv. Kamashma, no. I have two psukim. V'shilach es beiro ubir. Shilach is if he sent him on purpose, and beer is if he didn't send him. Maybe they're both speaking about regel, but there's no pasuk for shane at all. Meaning, maybe you're only chayiv if your animal stomped on something with its feet, and the toldos thereof. Right? We talked about the toldos of those things, but. It's a frequent thing. The animal, whatever the animal walked, he did damage. But if he ate something, maybe he's not responsible for that. Kamashma know that beer means with his teeth. So now that it means a shane, regel doesn't mail him on. How do I know? Maybe regel, now we said that the pasuk of beer is for shane. So maybe regel that if the animal did damage with his feet, well, you didn't send the animal in there. You were in Hawaii. And your animal went off, broke out of its cage or field, whatever, and went in somebody else's field and damaged it with his feet. How do you know you're chayiv there? Well, to me to shame, just like shame. When an animal bites something and eats something, it doesn't make any difference if you sent him or not. The pasuk says if your animal damaged something, you have to pay. How do you know that it means that shame is chayiv either way? The pasuk doesn't differentiate between them. Regel also, there's no difference. Doesn't make any difference. If you sent the animal, it's your responsibility. It's your animal. If it's regel, it's something that your animal normally does. You're responsible to watch it because if your animal's walking somewhere in somebody else's field, he could do damage. You also know by shame you're responsible for your animal. You know that if he goes to somebody else's field, he might eat something there. The same thing. So now the Gemara says, okay, fine. So if shilach teaches me regel and beer teaches me shame, just say b'shilach and not beer. The mashma regel, the mashma shame. You're saying that shilach really could be regel or shame, right? Except if it wouldn't say ubir, I might say that I might say that if it wouldn't be for the pasuk that tells me that Shane Kashival Tuma means Shane, I might say that means two kinds of regel. One where you sent it, and one where it went on its own. So, and then you said before that if it wouldn't say Vashila, if you wouldn't say that Shilach means regel, Shilach could also mean two kinds of Shane, right? One where you consume it, one you don't consume it. The point though is that Shilach can mean both, and beer can mean both. So if it can mean both, what do I need even two for? Just say one pasuk b'shilach, just say one b'shilach. Let's one of b'shilach low boy beer. The mash regel, mash b'shem. We said that beer could be that shilach can mean regel or shane, right? It can mean regel or shane. Okay, we got a pasuk regel, the shilach, the regel, b'shalchi regel. Shechmar tells me that it's regel, and beer is kashir regel. Tuma teaches me that it could be shane. But if it wouldn't be for those, if you wouldn't bring down those putkim, you could say that shilach refers to both. So just say b'shilach. What do I need to beer? Just say if your animal is sent, you send it or it's sent off. Maybe you're chai for either one. Mashma regel the sifim shachar regel asherchamor. Mashma shane. How do I know means shane? We said it could mean on its own, but I got a pasuk indicating it too. The teeth of the animals I will send among them. So the word you see shilach refers to regel and shilach refers to shane. So just say b'shilach and it can mean both. So you might say ilach or you say Rav Mina oha. Yeah, I'll tell you why. If I wouldn't have the extra pasuk of beer, I would say, okay, it could mean shane, it could mean regel. It means either this or that, but not both. Oh, regel does it means regel, where it damages frequently. It's normal for the animal. It's common for the animal to damage when it walks. Oh, shane, the animal has pleasure. You know, your animal is a pleasure-seeking animal, like human beings are. So it's your animal's going to do damage. It can mean this or that. So I might think it means either this or that, but not both. Michti, why would you say it means that the michti shkulanhein? If they're both, it could mean both. The avosh name, you have to learn both of them. The heimanai mafkas, which one would you exclude? In other words, the shilach can refer to regel or can mean shane. So just say shilach. You say, just say shilach. I'll say it refers to one of them. I wouldn't know both. Why? Which one would you exclude? Since it can mean both of them, why would you exclude them? Elamai can only say one, and one will refer to both. It says it says v'shilach es beiro ubirach. It says if you send him any damage to somebody else, it might that be only if you sent him. But if it goes by itself, maybe you're not. Maybe you're only chayav. Yes, you'd be chayav for regel and for shane based on the shilach if you sent the animal into the other guy's property. But if you went on his own, maybe I wouldn't know that. Kamash malon that it says beer, and then since you learn shane from there. The meila mi bevir asi regel be up in there. In other words, and shane can mean not even if you didn't send it, because shilach means if you sent it. So beer means even if you didn't send it. Once you know beer also refers to shane, and shane is whether you sent it or you didn't send it. The same thing refers to regel. So it goes back and forth. Basically, shane regel. Fine. Okay. Now we're going back to Rav Papa. Rav Papa said yesterday that some told those of shore can mean Karen, Shane, or Rego. Some told us, some of the told us in our Arbavas and the Zikin are like the principle, like the Abbas, and some are not. Let's understand what's the told of Shane, what's the derivative or secondary of teeth, Mahi, the Schachel Bakosla and Nasa. Again, the characteristic of Shane is that the animal is seeking pleasure. So let's say we didn't eat your apple off your tree or your banana or whatever off your bush. It was, or tree, whatever. Let's say it rubbed itself against a wall for its pleasure. An animal doesn't have feet, doesn't have hands. They can't just reach on his back. So an animal is itchy. He's got flies or something. So he goes against the wall and he's scratched himself. Then he knocked down the wall. So he did it for his pleasure. Wasn't with his teeth, but it's like it's a derivative of that. Or it rolled around in animals, for its own pleasure, in fruit for its pleasure. Again, trying to get the flies off or whatever. So how is that a told of shane? How? Because Shane, what is different about shane? The Asian Malzeka, because it gets pleasure. It belongs to you, and you're responsible to guard it. It gets pleasure when it does damage. It's not eating, but it's rubbing, pushing, whatever. So it's the same thing. El told it shane. So the derivative of shane is just like shane. It's got the same characteristics, the same chiyuv. Maybe when Rav Papa said that there are some toldas which are not like the avos, maybe he's speaking about the tolda of regel. What's the tolda of regel? let's say it didn't step on something and break it, didn't step on your glass and break it, but rather it damaged with its goof while it was walking. It was walking through a shuk. Let's say it wasn't a shuk now because it's not chayiv in Rosh Hashanah, but it's chayiv in somebody else's property. It was walking through a narrow path that you had in your garden. I got a neighbor that's got 150 plants, and there's water. That's why there's mosquitoes, because the water sits on the plates underneath there. So if I had an animal, it would be a good idea for an animal to go up there and break those planters. So Ezeka Bagufa Derech while it was walking, it didn't damage with its feet stepping on it, just its body, pushed them and broke them. That's a tolda of regel. The Sarah with its hair, Derech while it was walking, B'shlif Shaleh, whatever load was on its back, but Prumishabapia, the bit in its mouth, the bell on its neck, it damaged not with its feet, but while it was walking. What's the idea of the feet? While it's walking, it's normal for an animal. Big animal's walking, and it's going to do damage while it's walking with its feet. It's not intending to do that. It's just natural. Natural would be with its feet or with its body if it's breaking something. Maisha regel again. How is regel? What's the character's regel as zega matzui? It's common. It's frequent for the animal to do damage this way. It belongs to Mishmar and you have to guard it. This is the told that. Ella told the regel. So the told the regel is just like regel. In other words, it's got the same characteristics and the same chiyuv. Maybe a couple ones told a bore. What's a bore? You dig a pit with just a robin. So told the bore. What's the told a bore? Bore means if you dig a pit and the animal falls in there and dies, you have to pay for the animal. Okay, mind you. Maybe it means this. The av. What is the av? What is the principal case of pit? When it's 10 tefachim deep, and that's when if it fell into a pit which is 10 tefachim deep and it died, you caused its death. What's a tolda? Test. Tolda is if it's not 10. Test means it's not under 10 tefachim. And then if the animal died, you're not chayiv. Because if it's less than 10 tefachim deep, that's not enough to kill it. So if it died, it must have had a heart attack or something else. It wasn't your responsibility. Right? So the Gemara says, what do you mean? Low test ksiva below yuksiva. The pasuk doesn't talk about 9 or 10. Zolo kasha. The pasuk gets a mesi low. Right, that he has to pay for the animal, and then he keeps the dead body. He keeps the dead body. He pays for it, and the Mesi alone. Gemara says that the nizik the mazik. We'll talk about that later. That he gets to keep it. The damage, or if he pays for the whole ox that died. Let's say the ox that died in the pit, the carcass belongs to the mazik because he paid for the whole thing. That's a part of Mesi alone. Rachmana b'kim lo rabbanan yud abden misa. Only if it's 10 tefachim deep does it cause death. Test if it's only 9 tefachim, meaning less than 10, it can damage. But in other words, if the animal breaks a foot, if the animal fell into the pit and broke, and it was less than 10 tefachim and it broke a foot, then you're responsible for that, but you didn't kill it. Okay. The point though is that that's not an avana told the self say avana misa avana zikin. One's the principle for misa if it's 10 tefachim or more deep. If it's less than 10 tefachim, then it's going to do damage. It's not going to kill. If the animal got killed, then it wasn't you who caused it, but you could have caused a broken leg, right? So where's the oven? Where's the tolda? They're both of us. One is an av for misa, one is an av for damages. Ella, what's the case of a tolda of bor? Avno sakina maso. You left an obstacle in the Rishus Harabim. You left a stone or a knife or some other package or whatever, you left a bundle there. You left it there, the guy stumbled, the animal stumbled on it and got killed. And if you were mafkir it, if you left it there, that's bor. What's the difference? What's the difference of the bor? The bor has the characteristic that it's shkiach hazeka and it's in the Rishus Harabim. That's where you're chayev. If I dig a pit in my own property and some animal came in and fell there, I didn't ask him to come in there. It's his problem. I was digging for gold. This animal came in. Not my problem. Chayev only Rishus Harabim. If you weren't mafkir it, let's say you said, I'm keeping it. That's my knife. I left it in Rishus Harabim. I hope nobody will touch it, right? He says that's the same as bor. Hainu bor, meaning it makes no difference if it's yours or if you were mafkir it. If you weren't mafkir it, the chiv is because of shore. Because there's an intent almost to do damage. You learn it for sure. Hainu shore. So either way, it's either a shore or a bor. How is that different? In other words, a bor doesn't have to be something that's 10 tefachim deep only. It could also be any obstacle which is going to cause an animal's death. again, going back to bor, if it's shor, so we already explained shor, that all the characteristics of shor, whether it's keren, shane, or regel, that's like the principle. So where's Rav Papa's case where the told is not like the principle? And if it's bor, like Shmuel says, because Shmuel says whether even if you weren't mafgrid, it's told a bor. When you dig a bor in Shus Rabin, its basic, its characteristic is that it's going to cause damage. You can't leave an open pit in the Rosh Hashanah. It basically wasn't like you had something else and wasn't that wasn't going to damage. Later on, it can turn into something that's going to damage. It was made for the nezek. And it's yours. You made it. If you weren't mafkir, it's yours. And you have to guard it. You said, if you have a knife in the kitchen, that's not necessarily going to do damage, right? Or a package in your house, but if you put it in Shus Rabim, it's basically going to do damage. It's a stumbling block. Ella told the bor, it's the same thing. The told the bor is just like bor. It's basically something that's as soon as it's made, as soon as it's set there, it's going to do damage, and it's your responsibility. Told the mava. So maybe Rav Papa was talking about told of mava. Which told is not like it's av. Maybe it's mava. What is mava? Mava was the third one mentioned. He said Av was Zikin, shor. He said shor, bor, mava, hever. What is mava? So we have a famous machlokas. What is bor? What is mava? The chid kamarava told the mava. My niyu. What's mava? Even Shmuel, the machlokas is going to be brought down later. But Shmuel says mava is shame. In other words, when it says shor in the Mishnah, that refers to Karen, and when it refers to mava, that's shame. Okay, so shame we already described. He said this. What's it told of shame? If the animal rubs itself against the wall and breaks that down, gets pleasure out of it. So because he's getting pleasure. Okay, but told of shame to shame. Ila Rav holds mav is adam. Mav means a person. So my told us what's supposed a person is av me. Maybe av is when he's awake. Tell the yashin when he's sleeping. By the time we learn adam mu'id la'olam bein er ben yashin. A person is always a mu'id, whether he's awake or asleep. There's no told of that. Maybe it means on his phlegm and on his spit. Maybe that's what we're speaking of. If a person spits out some phlegm and that does damage, maybe that's the tolda of Adam, of Mava. How did the phlegm come out? If it's while it's in motion, kamaski, so kochu, that's his koach. What's the difference, right? What's the difference if I hit somebody with my hand or give him a headbutt or spit at him and cause the damage? Either way, I've done it with my body, and that's an av of Adam or Mavet. If after it's already stationary, you spit something and it landed on the ground, and the animal came and he slipped on it. So Ben Rav Shmuel Hainu Bar, because you were certainly mafker it. Nobody wanted to keep their spit, so it's either bor or it's an av. Ella told it a mava kamava. So the same thing. The told of the told of Karen is like Karen. The told of Regel is like Regel. The told of Shane is like Shane. The told of Bor is like Bor. Ella and the told of Mav is like Mav. Chikim Rapapa told of the Aish, the last one, Hever, right, which is Aish. That means that told it Aish. What's that? What's the characteristic of Aish? Aish is that you set something and there's some other koach there, the wind, and took it and blew it and damaged somebody else's field or somebody else's animal or whatever. Okay, let's say I left a rock or my knife or my package at the top of a roof, and the wind came along and knocked it down. It fell down in a normal wind. If it's an abnormal wind, that's an ones. I wasn't expecting a hurricane. But if it's a normal wind and you left it on top of the roof and it's going to fly off, that's normal. If it damages in the way while it's in motion, that's what Aish is. What's the character of Aish? The koach achar that or murabot, that there's some other koach there, meaning not the item itself. I set a fire here and the wind took it there. Without oxygen, it wouldn't move, right? Same thing over here. I put a package on the roof and the normal wind blew it off. Same thing. There's some other koach there, and Mamoncha was mine, and I have to guard it. Same thing over here. There's no difference if I set a fire and the wind took the fire to somebody else's field, or if I put an obstacle on the roof and the wind took it and put it there. We're back to our issue. Told of Aish is also. We've got them all now. Karen, Regel, Shane, Adam, Bor, everything. Aish also. Told of Aish is Aish. V'chikam Rapapa told of the Regel. Told of Regel. Wait a minute. Regel ho kimna told of Regel to Regel. We said, what's a told of Regel? If an animal's walking along and it damages with its body, with its hair, with the bell hanging on its neck in a normal fashion, it says Eko Matsui. So we already said that told of Regel is like Regel. special case of regel. The Chatzi Nezik Sroros. There's a special halacha l'mosh misinai that, again, what do we say? If my animal goes into your field and breaks your glass, or goes into your yard, let's say, and breaks your expensive vase, and it's worth $10,000, you have to pay the $10,000. If my animal did it, I paid the $10,000. There's a special halacha though. If, let's say, the animal didn't step on it and break it, but the animal stepped on a pebble, and the pebble shot out, like a ricochet shot out and damaged it and broke it. And the animal did the same thing. He's walking. He doesn't know what he's doing, right? He's just walking along normally. Special you only pay half nezek. Chatzi nezek sroros. That's halacha mashmi sina. Halacha mashmi sina. He only pays half. That's a tolda of regel. So my karila tolda. Why do you call it a tolda, the regel? L'shalom in aliyah, to pay out of your property. You have to pay out of, and not just out of the animal. See, if it's a tolda of shor, remember, shor only pays out of the goof of the animal, either chatzi, nezek, chatzi, or whole. If he's a mu'eh, he pays a whole amount only out of what the animal was worth. But shein and regel, which are chayiv not in Rishus Rav, chayiv only in somebody else's property, you have to pay whatever out of all my assets. Aliyah means I have to pay out of the damager's assets. L'shalom and aliyah. Rava had this question. The boy Rava Chatzin has a cross. You pay out of the goof, meaning is it like a tolda of Karen? You pay out of the goof of the animal. Oh, min aliyah, or do you pay out of all of his property, all of my assets? Right? He's not sure. Do you pay out of the goof of the animal, so you're limited to what the damage with the animal doing the damage is worth, or do you pay out of all the damager's assets? Right? So Rava had that question. And pardon?
Why would he think that?
Why would he think what?
That it's
because
analogous to Karen.
To Karen. Because it's halacha l'mosh misinai. It's not specifically. It's not like it doesn't have the same characteristic of a regular animal that does damage directly with its foot or with its body. It did damage in an indirect way by stepping on a stone, and the stone ricocheted out of his foot, shot out of his foot, and did damage that way. The special halacha l'mosh misinai that you only pay half, chatzi nezek sroros. Now, Rav is not sure. Is that special halacha misinai? Do you pay out of the goof? Meaning it would be an indication that it's like Karen, where he did damage with his body. Oh, where we did damage with his body, and you only pay out of the worth of the animal. Oh, min aliyah, or do you pay out of the owner's out of the damager's assets? So, oh, min aliyah mishalim. So the Gemara says, Rav had that question. He wasn't sure, but Rav Papa pshitale, right? The papa is for a papa, it's a davar pashut that you pay out of the aliyah. The chatzin pays out of all the owner's assets, the owner of the animal who did the damaged assets. But papa pshitale. So that's the case that we're talking about. Which told is not like the av case of chatzin nezek sroros. How is it different? Because regular you pay full value out of the assets of the owner of the animal. And by Sroros, you only pay half. That's how it's different. So the Rabba, the Miboile, so according to Rabba, my Karle told the Rex, why is it called the Tol Rego? The Potabrishus Rabban. Why is it called the Tol Rego? In other words, even Rava agrees that it's not really a Tolda of Karen. And he says he's not sure if it's Chatzin Ezek Sroros to pay out of the goof or like the other. It's not really like Karen because Karen, remember, has the characteristic that the animal is intending to do the damage.
Yeah.
Here, it's not intending to do the damage. So if you tell me that Rav is not sure if it's Chatzin Ezek Sroros because of he's not sure is it Karen or is it Regel, what do you mean he's not sure if it's Karen or it's Regel? If it's Karen, then you'd only pay. Why would it be Karen? It doesn't have the characteristic of Karen. Characteristic of Karen is that it's intentional. Characteristic of Shane is getting hand off. Characteristic of Regel is that it's normal. It's common for this to happen. This is clearly something that's common for happen. So what does it mean when he's not sure? He's not sure what do you pay, what the special, because it's halacha mishmisinas, so he's not sure what the halacha mishmisinai was. But according to and Rav Papa, it's clear that it's that my part told it's a told because you pay out of the why is it called a told regel? Because you pay out of the aliyah, and presumably it has the characteristic of regel also that it's shchiyah chazeka, right? But according to Rava, Miboile, why is it called a told of regel? A told of regel, if he's not sure, you might pay out of the goof of the animal only. So why is it a told of regel? The potbrishus ram to tell me you're potbrishus ram because shane and regular potbrishus ram. It's normal for an animal to walk there, right? And if you left stuff there, he's going to damage it either by eating it or by stepping on it or moving it or something of that sort. So there, it's not normal for an animal to gore even Rosh Hashanah. But for a shame regel is part of Rosh Hashanah. That's why he tells you that Chatzi Nesik Tzroros is a told of regel in the sense that you're part of Rosh Hashanah. You're only chayiv Rosh Hashanah. But do you pay out of the goof of the animal or out of the aliyah? Do you pay out goof of the animal like a case of Karen? That Rav is not sure about. But Rav Papa says he's sure. He's sure, and he says, why is it different? Why is it called the tolda of regel's regel? But I probably told the regel because shalom and aliyah. But according to Rava, he's not sure if you pay out of aliyah or out of the goof. So if you pay out of the it's a told of regel. So according to Rava, why is it a told of regel? Only in the sense that you're part of B'shus Rav.
So the part of B'shus Rav, is that part of the halacha Moshe Sinai?
No, that's the pasuk in the Chumash. It says "Ubir b'stei acher." Shein b'regel, which we learn out of the pasuk of B'shilach esbeiro Ubir b'stei acher. It's only chayv and stei acher. Somebody else is not in B'shus Rav. That's based on the pasuk. The concept that chatzi nezek tzroros, that tzroros you only, in other words, chatzi nezek. Everybody agrees that tzroros is a tolda of regel. It's a tolda of regel because the animal damaged in its normal course, just walking along and damaged. Didn't damage it directly by breaking it directly, but it damaged it by the ricochet of the stone. But right, it's definitely tolda of regel, and you're part of b'shus rabin, and you're only chayav b'shus yachid. But this that you only pay half. This that you only pay half is a special. Why should you only pay half? It's a tolda of regel. Regel should pay half. That's a special
that in effect makes it analogous to a Karen.
In that sense, right?
Because Karen is the only one where you don't pay the
where you don't pay, where you pay. Okay, but not exactly. Because this gets into another question. In other words, what Rava wasn't sure if you pay out of the or it was when you have the halacha Moshe Sinai, do you only pay half? Do you pay the half out of the aliyah, out of all his assets, or do you pay out of the goof of the animal like Karen? But clearly, in the case of Karen, when you pay Chatzi Nezek of Karen, the Gemara is going to debate that later on. But we come out, when you pay Chatzi Nezek, a tam only pays, the first 3 times that it gores, only pays half, right? And why? Because really you shouldn't pay anything, but it's a knas that you have to pay half. The Chatzi Nezek Tzroros, though, is not a knas, because it's a told of regel, meaning it really did damage, but the Torah Special Moshe Sinai, we give you a dispensation, you only have to pay half. So there it's mammon. Big enough Yamina, if it's knas or mammon, is moda knas is potter, and moda mammon you're chayiv to pay.
But so, what I'm just trying to figure out is why is Rava in doubt? You know, what's his suffix? And so his suffix is because the halacha Moshe Sinai.
We're not sure what it was.
Puts it into
regel, but
makes it analogous to
regel, right?
Because it's not the full.
Right, but it's not the full. In other words, I would say this. I would say it this way. I would say that its regel is clearly regel because the animal did damage not out of its intent, so it's not Karen. The animal did damage on regel. A special dispensation that the Torah says, you know what? Because it wasn't direct, you only have to pay half. Now the Gemara is going to say later on. No. Everybody agrees you only have to pay half. You only have to pay half. The machlokas is when the halacha Moshe said you only have to pay half because it's a special hanacha. Is it half out of the goof of the animal or half out of the aliyah? Depending, that would determine how much you would pay. But according to that's why it's called the regular shalom and aliyah in that sense. But it's clearly regel. Why is it told the regel that you pay aliyah? According to Rava, the Gemara says why is it called told the regel, but it's mashma that even according to Rava, he's not sure if you pay out aliyah or not. It's still told the regel that you're part of Rishus Rabin. It still has that characteristic. It's clearly regel, but the question is Rava's question was, I'm not sure. Is it when the Torah gave you a special hanacha? What did it do? What did it do? It clearly is still regel. It's not Karen because you had no intent. It's done in the normal way. The question is, what is it? How far was the dispensation? So the Gemara is a little bit confusing because the Gemara says, it's also told the regel because you're part of Rishus Rabin. It's also that. But what the difference is, why is it a tolda and not the ab? Because the ab pays the full amount, and here you only pay half. Hamava v'hever. So the Mishnah went on to say the Mava Hever. My Mava, what is Mava? So we mentioned already in the top of the page, Rav Amar Mava said, Adam Shmuel says Mava is a shame. Okay. So Rav Amar Mava said, Adam, because Amar Shomer Hashem said, Asaboka, the morning will come for the tzaddik and the gula let tzaddikim, Yetz Hashem v'karov, the Gam Laila, and also Chosha for Rishon, if they're not good, right? Im Tabayim Bayu, if you want to repent, if you want to be Mavakesh Mechila and do tshuva, Ba'ayu. So Bayu, who does that? Bayu is people, right? If I'm talking about you can do, so that's like relation Mava and Tabayim, like you're searching, like a person who wants to do tshuva. How was Esav searched out? Nivu Matspunov, it's hidden things, meaning hidden things. What's hidden? Teeth. Sometimes it's hidden, sometimes it's exposed. Nivu Matspunov, it was hidden. So again, so he holds Mava is like shame. My mashma, the Targum of Grove says that Pasuk says, how was Isbalish Esav? How was Esav checked out, or he was searched out, like a balash, like a detective. Iskalim at Moroi, his hidden things were exposed. Rav, okay, so Rav, my time alone, why didn't Rav like Shmuel? I got a pasuk also saying that Mava can mean like Niva checked out. It doesn't say Niva, it says Mava. If it would be like he says Niva, like the shame that's exposed, partially you'd say Niva, like that pasuk is there. Shmuel like time ago, why doesn't Shmuel say like Rav that Mava means a person? It says Bayu. Boa. It doesn't say Boa, it says Mava, like causing something else. Right? So Michli I can look at the pasuk. The pasuk is not clear, right? The Quran is not clear that it's like Shmuel, like Lokamar, like Rav. Doesn't say, neither one says Mava. One says Ba'ayu, and one says Nivu. Neither of them says Mava. So Rav might tell me, why didn't Rav like Shmuel? Says Tana Shor, call me the Shor. I'll tell you why. Rav says, why do you think Mava means shame? You Shmuel, you think Mava means shame? You already said Shor. We said Shor, Bor, Mav, and Hever, right? Shor refers to all things of Shor. Karen, Shane, and Regel. Why would I need another word for that? So it's Hatana Le Shor. So that's a good kasha. We already said Shor. Shor means any aspect of Shor, whether it's Karen, Shane, or Regel. Why does it have to say again Mave? Why does it have to say Mave meaning Shane? Or Tana Shor Le Karno. We mentioned Shor because get means Karen. Umava for Lesheno, for Shane. What about Regel? The Gemara will ask that in a few lines later. It's something like this. It says Shor, Karen, and it says Shane. But you can't learn out everything else from there. Karen, Shannon's like, what's the concept of, what's the characteristic of Karen? That it damages with intent. Karen, Shane, and also it doesn't get a gnaw. It doesn't get a place. It just has intention. It's got a bad intention. It wants to gore. It's a wild animal, like Pera Adam. Correct. It's not like Shane. Shane smells like a Shane has the characteristic that the animal has pleasure. Valori Shane, Shane which has pleasure. Shane Kavanas Lasik. It doesn't. Shane has no intention to do damage. The animal is just hungry or it's itching or something, right? Shane has no kavanah to damage. Karoi Karen Kavanas Lasik. There it does have a damage. So each one has a different characteristic. Karen has intention to do damage. Shane has intention just to enjoy itself. So what do I need that for? Ma Shane. So can't I learn out Karen from Shane? Ma Shane. Mam Shane. Where it doesn't want to do damage. Chayiv, you only has to pay. Karen where the animal clearly had intention to do damage and wanted to gore it. Well, Koskan shouldn't have to pay. So it's no. I still need a pasuk for Karen. Why? Some I might think needed. I'll be Evid. Look at Evid and Amma. If you're Evid and Amma do damage, you don't have to pay for that. Obviously, they're human beings. If they did damage, they intended to do it. So the fact that you have intention to do damage doesn't mean that it's potter. So you can't say kavachomer. If Shane, where he had a gnaw, he has to pay with the animal gnaw. By Shane, the animal didn't intend to do damage. So by Karen, where he had a gnaw, where he had intention to do damage, certainly you have to pay. No, look at Evid and Amma that they do damage, and you don't have to pay for them. There's a big reason why Evid and Amar Potter is good. Why? Because his master will get angry at him, will hit him or hurt him. The slave will go out and get in his anger, will go burn down somebody else's field, but he'll cause him a tremendous loss. Your slave gets it. I have to pay for my slave did. I hit my slave, I hurt him, I embarrassed him, or I injured him in some way. He goes out and he burns somebody else's field out and says, well, he's Ephraim's slave, so Ephraim should pay for it. It's ridiculous. That's Rabbi Meir and B'cholim will do it. That's not a kasha. This is how you could say. In other words, you can't learn that way. Let's say the kal v'chomer is this way. Lo roya kemshkemas lahazik or shein shein kmaslik. Again, Karen, you had no kavanah to do damage, right? Like Shane, we had kavanah, right? Karen, you had kavanah to damage. It's not like Shane, which you didn't have kavanah to do damage. Shane, sheyesh no zeko, and Shane has a character. You had a no, the animal has a no. Correct? Can Shane no zeko? Okay, Rego, my shira. So what about Rego? You left that out. According to Shmuel, that Mava means Shane, right? Each one has a different characteristic. Shane doesn't have kavanah to do damage, as Hano. And Karen has kavanah to do damage, and no Hano. What about Rego? You left that out? No, my shira, no. Here's what here's a Chavamazik Lasuye Rego. The Pasuk Mishnah went on. What does the character Mishnah says? The end of Mishnah says, she's got to pay out of the best. That's what you learn out from all of them. Each one is not like the other one, right? We said, they're not like Borsha, ain't dark. What's the Shav Shevens? That you have to guard them, they belong to you, and you're responsible. And that includes Rego. So according to Shmuel, that's how, that when it says, the Mishnah says, Shor, that means Karen. Mava means Shane, and Shehizik Chavamazik refers to Rego. So L'snaya, let it say the favorish, if that would be the case. Tomorrow we'll continue on with this, goes on to continue this discussion about how you learn to interpret the words of the Mishnah according to Rav and according to Shmuel. Have a good day, everybody. Shavua Tov.
Stay safe. Beautiful.